Hi everyone and welcome to the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog. On this Election Day Eve, I encourage you all to vote for Jeff Kolpack as the best author in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Welcome everyone to the blog. I'm just speaking from the heart there. Bison get ready for Indiana State, but are dealing with a major loss again on the defensive side of the football. Seems like we've been repeating this all throughout 2016. The news confirmed today, Jeffrey, by head coach Chris Klieman, that Nate Tangway, captain of this team, probably, I think, an All-American, certainly going to be a first-team All-Conference player in the Missouri Valley with a torn ACL, and his season is done.
We've been repeating this since 2012. If you really think about it, when all these, it's usually one or two good players a year, and it hit again. First with DeLuca, and now this play with Tangway.
You can see his knee right there.
And it looked almost like a non-contact. It was, but it wasn't like this bang hit and he went down. It was just something a little strange. Now here comes frustration setting in. Right there, you kind of go, okay. We're on the press box going, and that helmet slam, I've seen that. That's just like, it's like the ACL slam.
You saw it, Travis Beck punch the turf, I remember when he tore his Achilles. And similarly, when Colton Hegel tore his ACL, that was a non-contact play. Same thing with Tangway here on this play. All right, so now going forward, it's now upon a very young group at defensive tackle, and you have repeated this to me time and time again over the last 4 years. If you want to be really good in football, and especially at this level of football, you got to be good at that spot at defensive tackle. And outside of Aaron Steidel, there are some guys that are really green that are going to get some major reps starting on Saturday.
Green, but that doesn't mean they're not as talented.
That's true.
Just think about this. These are pretty highly recruited guys, if you remember. Blake Williams was a pretty high member of that class out of Michigan. And then Jack Darnell, he was one of those linemen who maybe had some FBS thoughts and talks.
Correct.
And NDSU got him. And I remember on signing day, okay, they got Jack Darnell out of the Twin Cities. And when you win those Twin Cities battles, you're usually pretty good. So this is a good chance for a redshirt freshman like that, like the kid from Champlin Park.
Grant Morgan is the guy slated to start. Morgan obviously got his most reps on Saturday against Youngstown, and Chris Klieman said he had his best game as a Bison. This kid who's been in the rotation for quite a while, and he's going to have first cracks. Now, I'm of the mindset, I said this on our post-game show, I'm not quite sure that the defensive tackle spot is going to be pressed maybe until the postseason. Indiana State and South Dakota, no slight to their offenses, are not what we're going to see the caliber that maybe test that position until the postseason. I'm of that mindset, at least.
And some of these teams that they'll see in postseason, you're talking like Eastern Washington, maybe JMU, Sam Houston. There's some pretty electric offensive there that you need to have some inside pressure. I think that Gloss has been picked up with DeLuca for the most part. There's been some noticeable absences.
Blank's been very good, though.
He's been very good against the run, and he's getting better on the pass. But, yeah, very solid. Plus, you have the two senior outside linebackers who I see are playing like seniors.
It's a major loss. There's no other way to look at it. And that defensive tackle spot, Blake Williams is, as you mentioned, highly recruited kid who has not played a ton. He's gotten in there a little bit over the last 7-8 games, but this is his time to shine because I think Klieman's of the mindset they're going to play 4 guys. They're going to rotate guys in and out there for the next 2 weeks.
He's big enough. He's 6'3", 287. Jack Darnell's big enough, too. He's 6'2", 291. So it's not a size thing. It's really an experience thing. And, again, when you get to Missouri Valley it's a man's league. It's a man's league inside, and these kids are going to have to grow up pretty quick.
Indiana State is the team that comes to town for the Bison regular season home finale. Actually, this is the Sycamore's final game of the season, Jeff. Their bye week actually comes next week. They're 4-6. Their playoff hopes are done. Isaac Harker is Mike Sanford's quarterback. He's actually got a guy after they lost their quarterback in Mike Parrish in the preseason. Harker's took over and done a really nice job that it's going to be a quarterback battle next season, or Matt Adams, to take over for Indiana State next season.
The thing about Indiana State, though, what I'm looking forward to, it's their last game. And we've seen the last game deal with a team that's out of it. Remember Missouri State in 2010, where they came in and beat NDSU. That was actually at Missouri State. But will Indiana State show up? Will they have the final game hurrah? They have a lot of seniors, like 17 or 18. Will those guys show up, or have they mailed it in?
And that's tough going on the road. It'd be one thing, I think, if this game was played in Terre Haute, I think I have my ears up for what you're saying. But the game being in Fargo and it's senior day, obviously, for NDSU, I just don't see it would be hard-pressed. Now, Indiana State has had flashes of brilliance. We thought that game where they played Illinois State, man, they were amazing in that football game. And then other games where they barely beat SIU or got beat by a late kick return against Youngstown State. It's kind of been a scatterbrained year for Mike Sanford's team.
Up and down. You said it, up and down year. And Mike, Indiana State, the fact that they've maintained a somewhat decent level of play after Trent Miles left, making the playoffs here and there, I think that's pretty good because look at their facilities, Dom. Look at their, I don't know what their budget is. I don't know if they're at the full 63. They're close anyway. But there's a lot of factors that Mike Sanford has to deal with that Chris Kleiman doesn't have to deal with. And the fact they're still pretty good and pretty solid team for the most part within the Missouri Valley, a middle-of-the-road team, I think that's still pretty good for this program. I agree with you.
Giving up 415 yards a game for Indiana State. The Bison offense has a chance possibly to get rolling. Injury-wise, it doesn't look like we're going to see Bruce Anderson this week, possibly for South Dakota. But if I'm NDSU, if you have a chance to get through these next two games and win these next two games and rest him, and then he's full go for the playoffs, I would do that and not even think twice about it.
King Frazier, maybe a different deal. He's maybe this week. Again, I think they'll maybe try to get by without him if they possibly can in one of those deals. If I were... Lance Dunn's he's a good player.
Man, he's turned out to be really
good player. It's not like you need to rush King Frazier back into the mix.
It is senior day, as I mentioned, and as opposed to 3 years ago where we needed about 35 minutes to get through the entire senior class, it might take about 15 minutes on Saturday. 11 guys are going to be recognized, but I want to focus on the 5 that North Dakota State recruited, because there's other guys that played as true freshmen. You mentioned Chase Morlock and Nick DeLuca, Brad Ambrosius. There's transfers like Frazier and Quentin McCoy. But there's only 5 guys left out of that class that came in 2012. 3 of them out of the state of North Dakota. They're going to be honored on Saturday. What do you make of that first?
Which could go down as one of the best Division I classes ever out of the state of North Dakota. Now, I haven't measured it up, but MJ Stumpf, I think, has been fantastic last 2 years and taken over for those departed linebackers that left. Of course, Plankers has been solid.
Jack has been really good.
He's been a starter this year. And then Landon Leckler on the outside. Really He's a guy who came in at about 100 pounds, it seemed like. But
he was still 6'7" the entire time.
He was a basketball player when he came in, and he's really been good.
3-year starter on the offensive line at right tackle for Landon Leckler out of Tiny Beach, North Dakota. But I think, and this is something we've talked about through the years, the recruiting philosophy certainly changed after the 11 and 12 class. You look at the guys that were, D. Gray was part of this class, Kerry Woods was part of this class, Deshaun Warren. You thought an electric wide receiver group, and obviously none of them are here anymore, but the focus of the recruiting angle certainly changed after 11 and 12 to what you see now.
Of course, and we've said this before, but then they went to more early offers and try to get these players before the playoff season hits, because once playoffs hit, it's hard to recruit. And the best thing you can ever do is be in a living room of a recruit's home. It doesn't do you any good, really. It does, but it doesn't.
If you're on TV,
Would you rather have your druthers? What would you rather do? Would you rather be in the living room or say, hey, watch us on TV?
It's funny because initially I would say, hey, we're on television. That's the best publicity ever. But the coaches would say, face-to-face always wins out, and that's kind of...
To mom and dad.
Yeah, that's what the final say is. Couple of big games bear watching this weekend in the Valley. Northern Iowa goes to Macomb for a massive showdown at Western Illinois. I think you're of the mindset that Western maybe now is kind of shaky for its playoff hopes.
I think they have to win on Saturday. I do. I think they have to win. There's a lot of 3-loss teams out there right now.
They're building up now.
And now if you get 4 or 5 losses, it's going to be tough.
The other game is in Brookings, South Dakota at South Dakota State. The Jacks, I don't know if struggled is the right word. They certainly struggled in the first half with Bo State before they pulled away. And USD may be in a free fall after that loss to Western a couple weeks ago.
We'll see, but it is their rivalry game. Is it Hobo Day, I would imagine, at South Dakota State?
I believe that was earlier in the year.
Was that earlier? Yeah. But anyway, it should be Hobo Day. It's the rivalry, right? So South Dakota will be up for that game.
Youngstown hosts SIU. We're not sure what the major changes that Bo Pelini promised after the postgame with NDSU, but the Penguins will try to get back in the win column. And Illinois State plays its season finale against Mo State. I'm of the mindset they get to 6-5. I know there's a ton of 3-loss teams out there, but the Redbirds would have one of the better resumes in the country.
With the Big Ten win.
With the Northwestern win to say, hey, don't forget us on Selection Sunday.
But who are their FCS wins? Who have they beaten?
They would have beaten South Dakota State, and they beat Western Illinois, 2 legitimate playoff teams in the Valley. You think that they would have to be in?
Maybe in the conversation. But again, the Valley didn't dominate non-conference like it did last year.
Yeah, I wonder this too, Jeff, where we got to go. Them not playing the last week, how much does that hurt them?
Because they're idle off the radar.
Because they're not playing.
You don't do that splash.
Right, the committee's not paying attention to them because they're not playing. I wonder if that's going to hurt them.
Well, when it comes to the committee...
Well, who the heck knows right now? We'll find out on Thursday. That's the next edition of the FCS playoff rankings. Of course, keep you posted on that. Full week of coverage, of course, on Senior Day for the Bison taking on Indiana State. It's also a huge basketball week at the Shack as that'll open up. NDSU men playing Arkansas State on Friday night with the Bison women against Dickinson State on Saturday. Full coverage both on the Forum and WDAY leading you up to that. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Izzo. We'll see you next week here on the Bison Video Blog.